I was there at the end, when the boss shot himself. It started when that weird mercenary martial arts instructor guy came in to talk to the boss. Mr. Jones, with that big scar across his face. He was this tall, snooty Russian guy in a black suit with a big suitcase full of torture tools. I don't think Jones was his real name. The boss had brought Mr. Jones in to help out with training the kid, which the boss had bought. Now Jones was telling the boss that they were going to have to get rid of the kid. I only knew a little about all that. The boss had bought this kid like a teenager who was supposed to be something special. A metahuman. One of those freaks you hear about who get their genetics all screwed up by modern science and start spitting acid or climbing walls. I don't know how much it cost, but I know it was a pretty big investment. We're talking like a couple of million at least. Or that's what I heard anyway. And then on top of all that, the boss paid big money to bring in Mr. Jones. He was there to train the kid and toughen him up. Make the boy into something that could be profitable to the enterprise. I guess the kid had been a test subject some mad scientist had been experimenting on. Like they'd tried out this process on a bunch of runaways, and the kid, the one we bought, he was the one who'd survived. I heard a bit about what his time in the lab was like. They say he'd been poked and prodded and filled with needles and made to shit out his guts for a few months, on top of watching all the other test subjects die. So he was kinda, not like permanently fucked in the head, but you could say he had some serious psychological issues. So then, this Mr. Jones guy, he spends the next couple of months training and torturing this already traumatized kid. He's teaching the kid martial arts and street fighting and shit like that, but at the same time, he's beating the living hell out of the kid. See, the kid's got like enhanced healing abilities, where it turns out, so long as you let him sleep a couple hours a day, his system can fix up pretty much any injury. It happens when he's asleep, it's part of his process or something. So this Jones guy, for these months, he's experimenting on the kid, cutting him up, burning him, freezing him, breaking his bones, peeling back his skin. He cut off one of the kid's toes, and the fucking thing grew back the next day. It was horrible. The kid clearly thought he was in the midst of some sort of nightmare, or maybe he died and gone to hell. They were keeping him on a chain in the basement, on a diet of dog food and sports drinks. The first time I saw the kid, I didn't even think he was human. He had this hollowness in his eyes, like an animal. So Jones, he comes in and he starts talking to the boss and he's saying, "We gotta end the project, it's gotta stop, it's a failure, shut it down." And the boss, he's not hearing that. The boss reminds this guy about how much money they invested in the kid, millions of dollars. And Jones, he just says to forget all that, because they made a mistake. The kid can't be controlled. They pushed him too far, and he's gotten too strong, too dangerous. The boss, he thinks that sounds like one of those good problems, and Jones says that it ain't. It's the regular type of problem, but worse. Then there's this explosion. We hear the sound and we feel the whole building shake. A grenade going off, probably. Then gunshots. First just a few, and then a lot. And then gradually, less and less. And then none at all. Mixed in with the fading gunshots were the sounds of a struggle. Sounds of pain and confusion. The impact of bodies striking the floor and the walls. The occasional scream. Then, quiet. The boss looked from Jones to the door and back again. Jones just stood there staring at the boss. Even from where I was sitting, I could see the sweat beading up and running down the sides of the Russian's face. Then, from outside in the hall, the sounds of approaching footsteps. Bare feet on the cold marble floor. Then the door opens and the kid walks in. And he doesn't look the same as before. He looks like he woke up, is how it is. The kid's fists are dripping with blood. And it ain't his blood. You can tell. He doesn't look like he's got a scratch on himself. The boss goes for his gun and the kid laughs. Says that he dodges bullets every morning just to earn his breakfast. Then the kid asks the boss if the boss wants to know what they did to him. What he experienced. And he took a step towards the boss. And that's when the boss put the gun in his own mouth and blew out the back of his head. Scared, I guess. I don't know. He was doing a lot of coke by then. You could see that changed everything for the kid. He was looking in the boss's eyes when it happened. He saw the boss go limp as the bullet pushed a wave of blood and a few chunks of brain out the back of his skull. The fight went out of the kid right then. It was too much. Too much gore, too much blood, too intimate. You'd have to be some sort of psychopath to not be impacted by something like that. And for whatever else he is, I don't think the kid's crazy. I don't even know if he's human. But I saw how he responded when the boss died. It messed him up. So there's still something sort of like a normal person in there. I figured there's gotta be. Jones, he asked if the kid was gonna kill him, and the kid said something about having lost his appetite for it. So Jones got the fuck out of there. Me, meanwhile, I'm like the last man standing. I'm hiding out in the closet. See, the boss, he always liked to have one of us guys with him, in the room, in a secret spot his guests wouldn't know about, just as like extra security. And sure, I guess that means I should have done something when the kid came in, but all I had to do was take one look at the kid to see how pointless that would be. I'd seen the kind of damage he could take, and I had an idea as to what he could do. So the whole time the whole thing was going down, I just cowered in there, in the dark, listening, and watching it all happen, trying not to piss my pants too loudly. The kid left pretty quick after Jones departed, taking a little money with him as he went. I waited another half hour before I came out. I hit the big safe downstairs, which still had a few $100,000 in it, and then I took one of the boss's cars and headed to Vegas. That was 10 years ago. The kid was about 15 then, so I guess that would put him at around 25 these days. Now, I'm not saying he is that guy they call the runner or the free runner or whatever, that guy in Vanity City. But I'm not saying that he's not neither. If it is him, though, they ought to be careful. Those people with powers, the stuff they can do, if their heads ain't on right, it can be messy. Hell, you gotta figure eventually, one of them goes wrong, it's gonna be a massacre. Just a question of time. These days, I consider myself retired from that life. I still have some pretty bad dreams, though.